No overhead lights today. It's bright and sunny outside. I don't need them. I don't need them. That's about there. There we go. I think that's the right height. All right, and I got my coffee. And here we go in 3, 2, 1. Good morning, everybody. Welcome. Today is Friday, June 5th, 2020. My name is Jeremy, and this is my first cup of coffee. Day 2 with the new burr grinder. Put a little bit more coffee in today. This is awesome. You really should check this out. Try one. I think you'll like it. It's good times. Good coffee. Better grounds, high quality coffee, a little bit of salt. I use my tea strainer as a pour over. I mean, what else do you want, right? Good morning, Stacy, and a happy Funday Friday to you as well. So before I forget, birds are playing. Before I forget, Monday, as some of you may know, is my birthday. If you watched Tuesday's episode of Whistlekick Live, you know that it's my birthday on Monday. I may or may not do a show. I don't know yet. It depends on what happens Sunday. I am taking the day off, and I hope you're all okay with that. If you're not, tough, because I haven't missed an episode in a long time. I think it's been over a year. And I'm not saying I'm not doing an episode. I'm just saying I might not do an episode. So if you have questions or comments and you leave them for Monday, I'll just answer them Tuesday if I don't do a show. Now, there's a really good chance I'll do a show because I'm going to go hiking, and getting up, the little fur ball is kind of insistent that I get up and feed her. She's used to that. For some reason, she wants to eat every day. I don't get it. So it'll probably work out. The whole format of this show is that it doesn't really take much extra from me. I'm already going to drink coffee. I'm already going to sit on the couch. The only difference is I just put my phone in this tripod and I talk to you. Oh, so good. So, well, just so you know. All right. Now, what happened yesterday? Yesterday was a really good, productive day. I worked on issue 0 of the Marshall Journal print magazine. It's coming out great. It's coming out great. It leaves a lot of questions as I was putting it together. But I think this thing is going to be a lot of fun. I think it's going to be, I don't know if it's going to be game-changing. But it might be. It might be. There's a lot of really cool stuff that we're identifying, and we'll see how it goes. Right? So, I've got a meeting about that later today. I think 10 a.m. I'm talking with Justin, and we'll go over it and come up with all the layout rules and the formatting and fonts and all the stuff that we have to come up with that. And there are a bunch of other questions that it begs that we need to answer. And we'll just keep chipping away. Our goal is sometime third quarter, we'll have the first one out. We are just starting the second quarter. Right? I'm sorry. We're in January, March, April, May, June. We're coming to the end. We're rolling into the end of the second quarter. There we go. I can do math. And it'll probably be another 3 months before we have that out. But who knows? Maybe sooner. We'll find out. What else happened yesterday? I repaired my motorcycle. I had snapped off one of the foot pegs. My bike's 15 years old. And I found a replacement part and got all greasy with wrenches and screwdrivers and put it back together and even wrote it last night. Not a thing that I would have been able to do. Good morning. Not a thing I would have been able to do not too long ago. I feel more confident in my mechanical skills, so that's pretty cool. Planted 4 tomatillos, these massive tomatillos that were, the root ball on these plants was this big. I had them in gallon fabric pots and they were full. What else? Email. Had a debrief meeting with Gabe about Whistlekick Live from Tuesday and some of the things that we're going to implement for the next one in July. It's the show keeps improving, and if this next step works well, it's going to open up a lot of doors for us. So cool. Today, I'll be off. I'll be at the office and just working on stuff, getting work done, taking care of business. TCB. Any Elvis fans out there? I wouldn't say I'm an Elvis fan, but I have a new appreciation of Elvis because of Superfoot. If you follow me on Facebook, I shared a status yesterday from 5 years ago. And it was me being nervous that I was going to have a meeting with Superfoot that day. And I did. And it's amazing to think what's happened over the last 5 years. You know, Bill Wallace has become a friend. I've earned rank in the Superfoot system. I've met a bunch of really great people. We didn't get to this year, but we've traveled and have our Superfoot conference, and it's been great. It's been a wonderful group, and I'm really honored to be part of it. And shout out to Paul and Terry for just being good friends, but the two best friends that I've met as part of that organization. Of course, Dennis is in that mix too. I don't get to see him as much, but he's a great friend as well. And there are a lot of great people, and all three of them have been on Martial Arts Radio. So, yeah, good times. Well, let's see what you all wrote in for me to respond to today. I know we got some jokes, courtesy of Frank. Thanks as always to Frank for his Funday Friday jokes in addition to the topics that he writes in every day. Where did the computer go dancing? The disco. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. After that, everything else was made in China. A little bit of reality on that one, huh? Oh, so good. So good. There's nothing like a good dark roast coffee. Vermont Coffee Company makes amazing coffee. I've thought about learning to roast my own coffee and then decided there's such great coffee. Am I really going to be able to get better roasted coffee out of my... No. I'm just going to buy it. I'm going to buy it from these people who do a great job and spend my time on other things. Like planting tomatillos. Because I grow amazing tomatillos. Whistlekick salsa? All right, tomorrow, not today, tomorrow, Saturday, June 6th, 2020, will be the 76th anniversary of D-Day. And we have some quotes. We'll start the war from right here. Brigadier General Theodore Roosevelt Jr., son of the former president who landed with his troops in the wrong place on Utah Beach. I know a decent amount of history. And I know probably more than the average person about World War II. I don't know a lot about World War II's military campaigns. I probably know more about the political stuff because of my lineage. I know more about the Holocaust. How tough must it have been to be Teddy Roosevelt Jr.? Your dad's president and one of the most badass guys that the country's ever had. And you land at the wrong place. Talk about some footsteps following. I'm looking out in my backyard. Maybe I'll have a fire tonight. I haven't had a fire in the fire pit for a few weeks. If any blame or fault attaches to the attempt, it is mine alone. General Dwight Eisenhower, future president, in a draft of remarks he made in case the invasion was a failure. If you look at leadership now versus, we'll say, 50 to 100 years ago, leadership then meant empowering your subordinates and taking responsibility when things didn't go well. And today, in many places, it means micromanagement. There's no empowerment. There's no taking responsibility. There's laying blame. There's playing politics. And it's gross. And it is one of the symptoms of the cultural shifts that we've had in the world over the last 50, 60, 100 years. If you've ever worked retail, you probably know what I'm talking about. When I was first out of college, I worked a retail job at Staples. Now, the Staples I worked at in college in Massachusetts, they loved me. I did whatever I wanted because I got results. I outsold the rest of the store. Let's just say I was killing it. I didn't take breaks. I would take a quick break for lunch and punch back in, and they were quite happy with like, yeah, we don't care. You're performing well. You do what you want. It was great. And then I moved to Vermont, where they didn't let me do anything. Despite the fact that in 6 months, I was within a little bit. I nearly outsold the rest of the department combined for the year. So I got results. And I remember sitting down at my first review, and they said, clearly, you have sales skills. But based on the rest of my review, I was on the verge of termination. So I worked harder. Literally, I found a way to work harder, even though I wasn't really happy in the job. As you might imagine, as any of you have come to know me, I don't just let things slide. If I do something, I do it well. And at my next review, I was told it had gotten worse. So I stopped caring. If I could give these people everything I had, and they didn't like it, I was going to give them less. I stopped putting away inventory in a timely way. I would help customers, because that part I really enjoyed, but the rest of it, I stopped caring. And I was told I was doing much better. And it took me years to really figure out what was going on there. I was young. And what it came down to was the management felt threatened. I had the skill to take any one of their jobs. At 22 years old, they knew I was on track to move up. And instead of being strong leaders and fostering that and realizing that when someone who works for you succeeds, it is a reflection on you, a positive reflection, they couldn't handle that. So they did everything they could to squash me. And it worked. And I went off and I did my own thing. Here's the best example. I was there. I had to make some photocopies, and I'd been trained in the copy center. I'd worked in the copy center, and the copies that I needed could not be done on the self-serve copiers. The manager who oversaw that department was in the copy center and very busy. And I said, "Hey, would you would you like me to come back and make them myself? I don't mind." And she said, "No, that's fine. Go ahead." While I was doing that, another manager came up and started yelling, literally yelling at me in the store. And I looked at the copy center manager, and she said nothing. She didn't stand up for me. Quitting that store was one of the best days of my life. Next. Come on. Hitler made only one big mistake when he built his Atlantic Wall. He forgot to put a roof on it. World War II U.S. paratrooper aphorism. See, now this is where my knowledge of World War II military strategy falls down. But I think what we can imagine is that if we think about Atlantic Wall, I know that Germany had a lot of submarines, and there are even accounts of submarines making it over to the United States. There is I don't know if it's documented or rumor or whatever, but I believe there's some evidence that there was a German submarine in um, in Maine waters at one point, and it was really tough to get ships over there because of all the submarines, except paratroopers, because you can fly over submarines and you can drop people. Now, I'm sure there's much more detail to it than that, and maybe somebody will correct me. And if I'm wrong, please do. But I think there's a pretty good lesson to take from that. If you watch new martial artists when they're sparring, what do they tend to do? They tend to go through, right? Bang. They just try to. Many of them will try to overcome an opponent with speed or with strength, but not with strategy. If the person that you're sparring is blocking everything, you're probably doing the same things over and over and make it easier for them. You got to move, and you got to bob, you got to weave, you got to throw some variety in there. As you get better as a martial artist, you don't have to go as hard, you don't have to go as fast. It becomes about technique placement and strategy and combinations and footwork and head movement. And I reached a point where just with my hands, I can make my opponent move in certain ways. There's a lot of nuance to the way people react when they're sparring, and they don't even realize they're doing it. If you struggle with sparring, it's probably because you're not good at it. If you struggle with something, it's because you're not good at it. If you struggle with it, let's rewind. If you dislike sparring, you probably aren't that good at it. There we go. And if you're not that good at it, the best thing you can do to get better is to watch yourself. Next time you're sparring in class, most schools, you know it's going to happen. You probably know someone who's there watching. Give them your phone or have them use their phone. Ask them to film you and then watch it. The cell phone is the most underutilized tool in martial arts. They fight not for the lust of conquest. They fight to end conquest. They fight to liberate. President Franklin D. Roosevelt's official address announcing the invasion. There's something rather timely in that statement, too, isn't there? They fight not for the lust of conquest. They fight to end conquest. They fight to liberate. I'll let you take that as you will. World War II is an interesting time in history. It was such a transitional period for so many things politically, and things that we are dealing with now came as a result of World War II. What's going on with China trying to bring Hong Kong back under the fold? That's World War II. The political environment that led to the Korean conflict, war, whatever you want to term it, Vietnam, that's World War II. The tensions between Russia and the U.S. that are still going on, that's World War II. History follows a path. It's not a vacuum. There aren't things that just suddenly pop up. They're the result of things that happened before. And if you really want to know what's going on today, the more you know about that, the better off you'll be. One of the things you see over my head is a map of the United States, but what you don't see is that in that corner I've got a map of the northeastern U.S. Right there I've got a map of the world. Right there I've got a map of New Hampshire and Vermont, and right there I've got a map of Europe, and that one right there is a map of Galapagos Islands. And they're up because they're cheap, easy wall coverings. They're sticky tack to the wall. I'm not done with this room, and so what? I'm not going to put these huge, expensive frames on these things. But I find myself, especially that European map, which is massive, when things are going on politically, geopolitically, I'll look at the map. I once knew someone who had said that throughout history, all wars are based over resources. Now that may not be true today, maybe it is, but they were making an argument that throughout much of history it was over wood. That access to wood, to forests, was a huge piece of what people were fighting for. And when you look at the wars that we've had, resources are involved. So to know what borders what and what they have, it's relevant. If nothing else, even if this time in history doesn't interest you, you might want to read a good summary. Pull up the Wikipedia page on World War II. It'll be pretty general. But I think it's important to know. What happened? Why did it happen? How does it affect your life today? All right. I'm going to go. I'm going to go have a wonderful weekend. I start birthday celebrations today. Not quite as rambunctious as they were last year due to everything going on. But I'm still going to enjoy my birthday weekend. I hope you have an absolutely fantastic day. I hope you get outside or do things that you enjoy. I hope you train. I hope you just love whatever's going on. I will probably see you back here on Monday, but no promises. And if you want to support the work that we're doing at Whistlekick, the code FIRSTCUP15 at whistlekick.com or patreon.com/whistlekick, patreon.com/whistlekick. Thank you. Thanks for watching. Thanks for submitting questions and comments, and I will see you back here tomorrow. Take care, everyone. Peace.